activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everyone. 46 after the hour, and joining us by telephone from the great state of Missouri, we have John Payne from Show-Me Cannabis Reguation. John, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Russ. Good to be here.
Oh, there's so much news to cover in Missouri. I know there's a poll. I was reading some stuff out of St. Louis, and I know you guys have initiatives and events coming up. Let's start with the poll that just recently came out in the state of Missouri showing support for marijuana legalization. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we commissioned a poll a while back. Well, actually, the National Cannabis Coalition, in support of us, commissioned a poll, and they looked at likely 2014 voters. And we found that just over 50% of likely 2014 voters in Missouri support legalization and regulation of marijuana like alcohol, with about, I think it was 42% against, and then, or 45% against and 5% undecided. And then if you gave them more information, both opposing and supporting statements, the support increased to 54%. Wow. With the opposition staying the same. So looks like when people know more about it, they're more likely to support it, which shouldn't come as a surprise to us.
Yeah, well, it surprises me. You guys are getting better polling numbers than we're getting out here in a recent poll in Oregon that only showed 50% support. When we get these polls, usually there's a breakdown between men and women's support. Women usually are 9 to 10 points behind. Sometimes there's breakdowns between Republicans versus Democrats or old versus young. How did that break down in this poll?
Yeah, women are definitely not quite as supportive. I don't remember exactly the breakdown there, but I don't think it was it was 9 points. That would be a pretty big gap. I think it was like 5 points, with men being about 55, and, well, maybe it was, men being, I think, about 55, and women being something like 48 in support. And then, yes, Democrats were far more likely to favor it than Republicans, but still, you had about 60% of Democrats. Still had about a little over a third of Republicans favoring it, though, which, I mean, if you're talking about an election, certainly that's not a good number, just 1/3, but, it still means 1 out of every 3 people who identify as a Republican support it. And those are definitely, if we can improve our numbers there, that's important in a state like Missouri, which does lean right a bit. So it's good to have some solid support among Republicans as well as Democrats and independents.
What are your plans with Show-Me Cannabis Reguation to boost support among women and Republicans and older voters?
Well, we're actually pretty close to launching a media campaign, and we're going to be using, a nice female person to talk in the ad, give a sort of a motherly kind of voice there, because that's people, are more likely to support someone they identify with. So if you have that, that's good. Then we're also going to be, we have Gary Wiegert, who is a St. Louis City police officer and a Tea Party activist. Now there's been some controversy surrounding his work with us, but nonetheless, we're using him to, solicit support from Republicans. And we're also, a lot of our people here, myself included, are very well networked in the Liberty movement. A lot of people who are Ron Paul supporters and are now very active in the Missouri Republican Party. And so there's a lot of Republican committeemen that are coming out, and we're starting to circulate a statement saying, we support the reform of these laws, and soliciting support from people that hold offices within the Republican Party.
That's great news. So, buoyed by these poll numbers, are you looking to the 2014 election for an initiative, 2016, or is this working within the legislature?
Well, 2014, we would love to have an initiative in 2014, but the numbers, even though we do have a majority support according to the poll, as you're probably well aware, the numbers typically, you want to start out with more than 50% support for something when you're going to do an initiative, because typically your support falls away a little bit as the actual election approaches. People typically get cold feet. Now, one thing that's interesting to point out, though, is that did not happen in 2012. In Colorado and Washington, they both outperformed the polls by just a little bit, and Oregon outperformed the polls by about 5 points. That was not expected to be that close, and so if that holds, then we could possibly make a win in 2014. But all the rest of the history suggests that you're going to lose support as Election Day nears. So 2016 is more likely for our next initiative. But right now we are working through the legislature to try and pass some incremental reforms. They're not by any means where we want to stop, but something like a statewide decriminalization measure, maybe a medical measure. Those would be things that we would definitely like to see happen and might happen through the legislative process between now and 2016.
How much are the legislators in Missouri looking to Washington and Colorado? And do you worry that bad after effects in Washington and Colorado might, affect chances for 2014 or 2016?
I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but I'm pretty confident that Colorado and Washington are going to be success stories on the whole. And also the legislators here in Missouri, they're not actively looking at Colorado and Washington. Certainly if they become big news stories, something happens out there, they'll look to that. But mostly, they're pretty focused on their home districts. I've actually had some conversations with legislators who say, well, I can't support this right now, but at least publicly, I kind of agree with you, but my constituents just aren't there yet, which, our poll suggests that they are, but I've been told, no, that your poll is wrong. I think there's a real disconnect between people who are afraid to speak out to their legislators about it, and their legislators are afraid to speak out because they think their constituents are going to kill them for it. So there's a big confusion about who really supports what.
Yeah, it sounds to me like the constituents, the people listening in Missouri, just need to call their representatives and say, I'm not voting for you unless you support this issue. Get it through their heads. They could lose their jobs over this.
Absolutely. If representatives start hearing that from their constituents, then they're going to change a lot of them will change their tune. I mean, there's some out there that we're never going to change no matter how many constituents they talk to. But if you have a guy who's kind of on the fence and who thinks it's a good idea, but is just afraid because he thinks that his constituents don't back that, then getting some constituents out there to talk to him, that'll change his mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to talk a little about St. Louis. I was reading something about the aldermen there voting for a municipal sort of decrim measure.
Yeah, that's right. We had a vote just this Monday morning, and it went 22-3. Wow. It would have been 24-3 had two of the aldermen in favor been present for the vote. But it's a massive show of support for decriminalization in the city of St. Louis, and I live in the city of St. Louis, so it's something I had a personal stake in and worked quite a bit on. And now I will say that the news outlets at first got it wrong, because they said that it's still allowed for 90 days in jail. And there was an earlier version of the bill that had said that, but we actually worked with Alderman Shane Cohn, who introduced the bill, and the Health and Human Services Committee to take that part out of there. So now if you're in possession of under 35 grams of marijuana, then it's probably just a ticket and a fine of $100 and probably a suspended imposition of sentence, which that does not count as a conviction, and so there's no criminal record on your public record. So that's important there.
Well, that's fantastic, and I thank you for the update on that. We did report that story a day or two ago and mentioned the possible 90-day sentence, but now no possibility of jail for this St. Louis ordinance.
That is correct.
That is good news. Now, I was also reading in it, and maybe you can clarify this. The news had said that what would be considered a small amount would be up to police officer discretion. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that was sort of a contentious point because so in state law, there's a distinction between 35 grams and under, or under 35 grams and anything more than that. And that's the distinction between, according to Missouri state law, a misdemeanor and a felony. So technically this does apply to anything under 35 grams, but they're not, they didn't know if the officer would be able to say exactly how much it was. Now, I honestly don't think at this point that that's going to be a big problem in the city of St. Louis, because in actuality, the police department has kind of led on this issue. St. Louis, as you might know, is not exactly the safest city in the United States. There's a fair amount of violent crime there, and the police officers in St. Louis, every single one of them that I've ever talked to one-on-one have told me, yeah, we should legalize this. We don't want to deal with it. It's not something we want to mess with. It just wastes our time when there's actual criminals out there. So I don't worry about, there may be one or two cops out there in St. Louis that are going to try to really enforce that and use their discretion in the wrong way. But this is, I don't think it's going to be a big problem in St. Louis. There are other cities in Missouri that I would worry about the officers having that kind of discretion, but St. Louis is not one of them.
Okay, well, that sounds like good news to us. John Payne from Show-Me Cannabis Regulation. Anything else you need to tell us? Update us on the Show-Me State?
Nothing really, except for if you're in Missouri, specifically if you're in the St. Louis area, we are having a 420 celebration this Saturday down at the Handlebar on Manchester Avenue in the Grove. So it starts around 6 o'clock and runs all night. So if you want to come down and show your support, please do.
And if people want more information, your websites and Facebook addresses? Yeah,
it's www.showmecannabis.com. You can also join our mobile campaign by texting SMC for Show Me Cannabis to 420-420.
SMC to 420-420, and that'll join the mobile campaign. Get you the email campaign. They'll get an email or something.
Yeah, you'll get an email, and you'll also eventually be asked to enter your zip code so we can connect you to your legislators to do exactly what we were talking about a little while ago, and contact your legislator, give them a call, and tell them how you feel about this issue.
All right, SMC to 420-420 if you're in Missouri and want to help Show Me Cannabis get it legalized in the Show Me state. John Payne, thanks so much for joining us. Great news on that poll, and good luck on everything you're doing there in Missouri.
Thank you, Russ. Have a good one.
All right. Hey, folks, that's just about all the time we got here at Hour 1. And coming up in Hour 2, joined by our good friend Brian the Red. And we'll talk a little bit about tonight's Red Eyes Reggae Flashback taking place at 8 p.m. Pacific, live right here from Rolla J Studios. If you want to get the real roots reggae rhythms, this is the place to be. And coming up next, we have got, what do we have next? Oh, yeah, Toker Talk Radio. And then 3 o'clock, excuse me. 3 o'clock, we've got I think we're going to replay the Big Daddy Fink Funky Roller Rink Sample My Funk Volume 3.
You mean 5 o'clock?
At 5 o'clock. 3, sir.
3, yes.
Hey, that's all the time I got for Brian the Red. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Summertime, summertime. I get high in the summertime. Summertime. I get high in the summertime.